Because guess what? What has every major crime bill that's gotten this far been? A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic crime bill. That's the secret. A Democratic crime bill. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops.
I guess in the end that it's just a crapshoot. Who denounces the true you versus who backs you? Knowing you would skin the poor to make a tracksuit. Knowing you'd begin a few wars if your overlords asked you. Knowing that the ink's not dry on the last few. And knowing that your voters aren't living in a goddamn vacuum. We see through you, Joe, we see past you. Joe, we know you only want to kick trans folks out the bathrooms. Spittle up some dreck about family values.
That's the secret.
Take away our weed and then say that we just need Valium. Joe Biden, patron saint of Big Pharma, knows no karma, and all of our media paints him as valiant. Well, I'm here to tell you the spirit of Biden exists in a cursed medallion that rose out of hell like smoke in the form of 1,000 stallions. A dead battalion. Eyes blood red with a lust for the violence of racial injustice.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus. It's maybe not a song you would dance to, but something of substance. Something in place that can warn you when liberals lie while they're looking you straight in the eye and they say you can trust us.
That's the secret.
I come to bury Joe and burn a candle for Augustus. Maybe you didn't get what I meant. This is not a political event. It's the winter of our discontent. Half of us will not make rent. I might burn my masters just to keep warm. Big white lies. No silver lining under smoke gray skies. And all of the streets ran red, but the blood sure kept our feet warm. So vote for the wolf in sheep form. Defund police before we're all deformed. Take our free speech, we'll speak in the tongues of C4. Our lungs need more to send us packing than tear gas thrown from the hands of fascists who killed their cams and take off their badges, all while Biden and Kamala fund our assassins and offer us nothing but platitudes. They'll tell us go out and vote and then clean up your attitudes. Well, Joe, fuck you to death and the donors you fed us to. Go out and vote and then clean up your attitudes.
A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops. A Democratic president wants 100,000 cops.
Last stand, and I came to deliver. Been called a Clinton operative, a Russian, and a grifter. By libs, a washing student debt, proud to be an intern, sucking up to pigs who get a tax cut in the midterms. You cut the ties but never heal the wrist burns. Capitalist shackles wrap and penetrate like ringworms around the necks of those whose deaths will not affect the king's purse or the coffers of the company the king serves, who manufacture mandated tinctures. Their safety data hanging from a fixture, half a mile skyward, just dangling from the rafters. My grift is sobbing till I'm cackling with laughter. I guess I would've made a decent actor. I'd be great at crying on command until they cut plus 40 minutes after. When the director waves a hand, it ain't a rap, it's now a legal matter. honey. My grift is weeping on a mic until I'm hacking up. Airstrike verses like it's bombs away and batter up. Swinging on these bigots, they keep killing us to fatten up. Kill the switch, eat the rich, I think they're finally fat enough. Grab your knife and fork, the world is yours, just say you've had enough. And if you're comfy, you could go ahead and laugh it up. Tell me how the most important vote I'll ever cast is like the choosing of a bus, in that it might not take you anywhere you want, but no one can deny the fact the bus is now no longer where it was. And that's the kind of progress we should celebrate and trust. Spoken like a kid who never took a bus. Spoken like a piece of shit that used some cash to mask his stink and truly thinks he's one of us. Spoken like a terminally unserious person who equates our cries for rights to mixed up orders from a server. It paints a privileged picture of what you would label urgent if the worst thing you've experienced in life has been the time your waiter accidentally brought a tray of gold flake scallop when you clearly ordered gold flake urchin. And now you're storming out the restaurant and hopping in a Tesla. You got 80 pounds of Tony Fauci merchant.
Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride.
Best to place your bets on weaponizing the identity of every limp progressive claiming grassroots integrity. Policy is a slippery slope for all of its complexity, so flex your brave resistance with this Ilhan Omar NFT. Numbered 1 of 723. Each depicts her valiantly championing a bill before she lays it at a donor's feet. And she can throw her hands up in the air with AOC and say if only Nina Turner could have voted present too, that's why we need another seat. We need some more progressives we elect to only tweet, who live to serve humana and their label of elective slapped on every patient's gravest needs. And every station plays the theme that medical professionals agree on the effectiveness and safety of injections authorized for this emergency. And in purely unrelated news, the profits of the ones who manufacture vaccines just increased by nearly 36 billion with a fucking B. Sometimes it feels like we're the only ones that see. Sometimes it feels like all of us are lost at sea. And every time we think we see an island on the tip of the horizon, it turns out to be another measure making sure we're kept within the watchful eye of murderous authority. And so I guess my grift is crying for the future they denied us, where the people who would buy us are a mockable minority. And we are more than genomes under warranty. And we are more than serfs in constant quarantine. If I had a single breath left, I'd let the chorus scream. I'd announce our leaders claiming none for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me. None for all and more for me.
Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free ride. Rewind 2 chains won't make you wait in such a long line. Life's not just a way to waste your free time. Air that's fit to breathe is not a free ride. Free bad. Now what you're following, that's idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. That we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickle down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away. When home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last, where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do. Said, thank you, Obama, for life in the red. Thank you for DAP and a pat on the head. Thank you for saving the banks as millions are drowning in their debt. Thank you for all of the fluff and the nothing you said. Thank you for proving we eat up identity politics.
all of your policy better forgotten. Just tell us what books you read. Tell us what record was top of your playlist, turning a wedding to Day of the Dead. What Quavo song went along on a heavy rotation, bombing Iraqis in bed. When they told you that 90% of your kills are civilian, what Jill Scott chorus was stuck in your head? What put you at rest after such a long day of convincing a nation it wasn't so deeply misled, that you weren't just Reagan with New Age media training, who fed on our hopes like his daily bread, who preyed on the weak, who was never unwilling to serve you a speech to remind you the middle class needed to bleed, and you helped us succeed if you learned to accept it, and better yet, learn how to laugh as they bled. Round of applause. Laughter erupts. Mike gets dropped. It's the end of his set. And the crowd, once hungry, are now on stunned from the glow of celebrity, which is impressive, especially since they're contented to sit and be civil while all of the donors are fed. They thin out the herd by a million a week if it gives the elite an illusion of peace, like they're out of the path of the future we reap, and they won't be debris in the wake of its tread. But the future is now, bathe in the sound, drown in the dread. Hide in the lounge, hire more guards at your gatehouse, hire someone to come build you a safe house under your shed. Hide with your diamonds and files, the files you keep to yourself and the files you keep for the feds. Hide in the dark for a while and watch all the value regress. Watch all the worth of your wealth on this earth melt down in a pool with the rest of the cess. The affluence left over after the worldly collapse of the affluent. After it's back to the dirt with the rights of their birth, privileged smirks and their unpaid taxes, #blast. This has all been a nightmare, capitalism was only a test. So you need not weep and you need not repeat what the liberals said. We will not be saved by people who say that the water is safe while they look in your face and they pantomime sips of lead. Honey, nobody's lifting us out of this mess. Honey, nobody's lifting us out of this mess.
That's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts. Counting backwards from 5. Counting backwards.
No, Indie Love, what is happening here?
Check out IndependentLeft.news.
The Indie News Network.
Indie Left News.
Oh, hey, Indie Left.
IndependentLeft.news. Great work.
Indie Left News.
IndependentLeft.news.
Independent Left News.
Shout out to Independent Left News. What's up, Independent Left News?
Thank you, IndependentLeft.news.
And Indie, wonderful.
I think Indie was onto something.
Independent News Network in the news.
Yeah. What's up, Indie over on Rockfin?
Independent Network, also known as INN.
Indie Left News.
I don't know if I would have made it through that 3 weeks without it, honestly.
No, I was just gonna ask Indy.
A huge thank and shout out to Indie Left.
No, you know what we're doing? We're world building.
Indie Left News.
We're doing the INN recruiting.
Indie News.
Shout out to Independent Left News.
Check out Independent Left News.
Academy News.
I see Indie's in the chat. Hi, Indie. Okay, great. Bye.
Who are these people?
Okay, hi everybody. That was weird. Sorry. I don't know what the heck's going on with that intro. Welcome to How Do We Miss That? I'm Indy. That's Reef right there. Anna's saying echo, echo. Sorry. I thought that was fixed. I don't know what the hell. I think I turned it on to us and it might have pushed it back out there too. So I just got to turn that off. Oh man, it's Sunday night and we're here again. it's been a busy, crazy week over at the network, and luckily it hasn't been just us streaming, but I think there's been us on one of the shows just about every night this week.
Yep.
And I'm kind of excited to wrap this one up. And I've got a few stories. I think we might even get through this one quick and get a little break before we have boats. We'll see. I said to Reef, I think this is going to be a short one. He goes, so what? It's only going to be an hour and a half? No, I don't know. I think it could be a little
he'll probably make
that.
it 2 hours, so.
I don't know. But we'll see. Yeah.
Place your bets in the chat now, fam.
Somebody's messing with me. Place your bets. How long are we gonna go? So let's just see.
Fire! 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 Fire!
Now, does anybody hear that? Anyone?
Yeah, I did.
Yay! Okay, that worked. Okay, cool. So we're gonna talk about what's gonna happen in Chicago. We're gonna talk about a letter that most people did not hear about or read about that I certainly did, and we're going to read that tonight. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the UK riots, because I didn't talk about them at all. I was kind of waiting to sit back and see that all kind of shake out and develop and see what exactly that was and where it came from, and who did it, and just kind of get some perspective. So I went to one of our British friends, Council of State Media, that does really good work over on Substack. And so I pulled one of his articles, and we're gonna read that. And then we got a couple of quick hits, and we'll get out of here. So the first article is gonna come tonight. And, as I said, and as you know very well, we don't necessarily really like talking about electoral politics here in Indie land, in INN land. But what we do worry about are the journalists that are covering electoral politics, because a lot of them are friends of ours. There are several of them in Chicago right now that are covering the DNC. We are not, because that's just not what we choose to do. But for those that do, I want to make sure that they're safe and that they're not getting their asses kicked by the cops. So I went to, the guy that talks about police accountability and when it comes to journalists, and that's Kevin Gosztola, especially now that Julian Assange is free, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he put out this free post, and he made all articles from his publication, thedissenter.org, free for this month. So go subscribe there. Go hook him up if you can with a couple of bucks. He's one of the best out there. I always liked his writing, and he's always straight up. Even if I disagree with him, I still respect his perspective. So he's wondering and speculating how Chicago police will, respond to DNC protests will impact reporters' freedom. And so what's going to happen here? So here's,
right to jail right away.
Well, that's what we're worried about. Reporters covering DNC protests should be prepared for potential interference or attacks from Chicago police as they try to do their jobs. And I sent this to a couple of our friends, and I'm like, just, be careful out there. Again, all exclusive articles are available to everyone in August. It will become exclusive, I'm guessing, once September comes. But he's saying that journalists from all over the U.S. and the world will be in Chicago next week for the DNC. Many reporters will cover rallies and demonstrations that city residents have organized for months, particularly against Israel's war on Gaza. I don't think that's much of a surprise. Chicago Police Department, which has a substantial record of violating First Amendment rights, is in charge of security, and there's been a documented increase in arrests and assaults of journalists, as well as damage to media equipment by police at anti-war protests. I don't think that's much of a surprise to anyone.
Nope.
A coalition led by legal organizations like the ACLU of Illinois and the National Lawyers Guild of Chicago, wrote a letter to to the Chicago Police Superintendent Larry Snelling and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who interestingly enough came out today or yesterday and finally acknowledged that it's a genocide that's happening there. Thanks.
Okay.
But a Democratic mayor, well, a lot late, but in time and just in time for the DNC to happen in his city. They demanded that the city respect people's rights to speech and assembly during the DNC. Well, you know, we don't want a repeat of, and this is what I thought was funny. You know, they decide to list all the different times when Chicago police beat the crap out of people publicly at demonstrations, and they had plenty to go with. The DNC from 1968. Well,
famously, there's a pretty famous one, right? Yeah,
1968, that one. Yep. But then you also had the anti-Iraq war protest of March 20th of 2003 and the 2012 NATO summit throughout the 2020 summer of demonstrations in support of Black lives and George Floyd, you know, in the wake of George Floyd. So the coalition recalled that during the last 8 months, CPD officers have targeted people protesting for a ceasefire and justice in Palestine with violence, verbal harassment, and unnecessary arrests. Well, yeah.
I don't stand for that.
Yeah, I know we don't, but we kind of, that's what they've been doing. Seth Stern and Jimenza Pinzon of Freedom of the Press Foundation authored an op-ed for the Chicago Sun-Times that urged police to allow journalists covering DNC protests to do their jobs freely and safely, even if, and especially if, things get out of hand. Because we know that they do that regularly, right? Like, okay.
Yep.
So Kevin himself says, based in the Chicagoland area, he'll be on the ground throughout next week to chronicle and track the impact that policing has on freedom of the press during the DNC. Are they going to herd everybody into a pen and not allow them to interview people and cover and do everything? Yep. Desert Mantis letting us know protests are already underway, and that's not a surprise. All right. And haven't they already been surrounding the convention? They have. That's already started to happen. Golden Monarch. So thousands of CPD will deploy along with officers from Milwaukee and various departments in the state of Illinois. Yeah, they're staffing up. Supporting police departments will likely defer to CPD leadership with more experience handling protests, also within their own city, that know the city, the buildings, the business owners, etc. Have you talked to people that are going to oh, you're in the middle of that. Okay. Snelling has reinforced fears that okay, you're back.
Have I talked to anyone
that's going to Chicago? No, you haven't talked to a human being ever. Like,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
You know? I mean, I asked them why. Why would you want to go to that? You know? Yeah, but we had to cover that. No, we don't. Like, plenty of people will do that.
Right.
You know?
Well, we want to talk to the people
like,
outside.
You just want to be there if it's 1968 again.
Well, yeah, but
that's all you want.
You don't want to be there if it's 1968 again, though. That's the thing. Like, you do, but you kind of don't. Like,
do I get to bring modern stuff back to 1968 or?
What a phrase. What a freeze on Reef's laugh. That's great. What happened?
Why?
Why, Bobcat? Oh, dude, I need to. Oh, that was great. Okay.
I'll fix it. Jesus Christ.
Snelling has reinforced fears that outside agitators will come to Chicago to destroy the city. At an August 12th event attended by local business executives and elected officials, he said to widespread applause, "We're not going to allow you to riot." Nobody was planning on rioting. They want to march peacefully. They want to make their voice heard. They want to try to affect change and let people know how pissed off we really are. That's what they want to do. But not throw things through bricks. That's what feds do in order to instigate and say that there was violence. Well, protesting and rioting are two different things. Yes, they are. The moment that starts, we're going to intervene. I'm not going to wait until it gets out of control and then try to bring it back in, he insisted. Okay, thanks. In other words, the police plan to try to predict whether a peaceful protest may become a riot. Yes, we're getting pre-crime, folks. Okay? Reporters should worry about instances when police commanders declare an assembly as a riot, especially before any violence or criminal act has been committed. Officers will disperse everyone and press who exercise their right to record or observe the actions of police in order to inform the public will likely face attacks or interference. Yeah, look for those rubber bullets, especially if you're filming. But I believe you made something called Film the Fuzz a long time ago. I remember that.
Yep, I did.
But while discussing the planned security response for the DNC, Snelling has invoked the rebellions that unfolded in Chicago in 2020 against policing following the murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police. You know, we talked about that. His inaccurate characterization paints civil rights protests of the summer with a broad brush, treating them mostly as riots without acknowledging the well-known role that the CPD played in sparking violence. Oh, yeah, they were just innocent bystanders, right? Snelling claims that police are more prepared for mass gatherings. Yes, he's the police commissioner, right? They were more prepared for mass gatherings than they were in 2020. However, a May 2024 report from the city of Chicago's OIG, that's the Office of Inspector General, found that the CPD trainings on field force operations and First Amendment considerations still involve outdated tactics and vague descriptions of the limits against particularly escalatory tactics. So
field force operations,
they're not being taught, and de-escalation tactics are not being pushed for.
The fact that they're there at all is escalation. I mean, partially, so
sure,
like, and they're bringing in cops from outside the city to come in. All that stuff is happening.
Yep. Well, that's what they're doing. They said that, but specifically, CPD training materials relied on outdated and inaccurate psychological theories to instruct members that crowds negatively affect individual participants, encouraging violent behavior. OIG further found that CPD draft policy allows for use of crowd control tactics, which have both in Chicago and other cities been used indiscriminately without distinguishing between peaceful demonstrators and individuals conducting criminal acts. That's because everybody's a criminal in their minds. So they only have, kind of one. I thought this was America. One speed. But again, according to the Office of the Inspector General from Chicago Police Department, a draft policy lacked clear limitations on these tactics. I don't think that's surprising. They emphasized that by generalizing mass event participants' capacity for violence, while also teaching tactics that may be used indiscriminately against demonstrators and those committing criminal acts alike, CPD's guidance may contribute to risks of escalating tensions and violations of constitutional rights. I don't think it's a may. I think it's a likely will. All right.
Right.
So, Freedom of the Press Foundation's U.S. Freedom Tracker recorded several incidents in Chicago during the nationwide uprising. On May 30th of 2020, freelance journalist Jonathan Ballou was sprayed with a chemical agent while reporting on a protest. He sued the city of Chicago and got a $40,000 settlement on October 23rd. So not only is this bad policy, it's also costing the city money. Then you've got two other incidents occurring on August 15th as protests against policing continued. Freelance photographer Dominic Gwynn told the Tracker that an officer tried to tug him off a flower bed that had a wet concrete surface. After the officer let him go, another officer assaulted him as he tried to take pictures of a woman who police dragged and arrested. Yeah, they don't like it when you film what they're doing, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Then you've got independent journalist Raven Geary, according to the tracker, was subjected to an unauthorized police search of her backpack that same day. Police kettled protesters, and that's what I was talking about. Are they going to do that with reporters, make it impossible for them to leave? She was wearing a black helmet with bright green tape marked press and identified herself as press several times, yet an officer took her backpack and emptied its contents. They don't care.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a target.
Yep.
Same thing with those blue vests in Palestine.
Yeah.
You know?
Chicago police engaged in attacks on the press in 2020. We, again, well documented, when there were protests calling for the removal of a Christopher Columbus statue in Chicago's downtown in downtown Chicago's Grand Park. And police reportedly assaulted the same reporter, Colin Boyle, of Block Club Chicago, again, when he was reporting on protests after Chicago police killed a 13-year-old Latino American boy named Adam Toledo. And there are too many of those. And then, finally, he's got that Snelling is fond of holding up the NATO summit in May 2012 as an example of how police can appropriately respond to protests. But as Mr. Gostola Kevin here reported, again, Indie Media Award honoree, the police and local media manufactured this consensus and ignored the extent to which the city suppressed freedom of speech, denied permits for marches, and passed restrictive ordinances to make assemblies more difficult. That's what he's proud of, Kevin.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
CPD also used an informant to entrap 3 activists, the NATO 3, who were charged and later acquitted of state terrorism offenses, but that wasn't the whole point. They were disappeared and taken to the Homan Square black site that police operated in violation of arrestees' constitutional rights. That's where Jesse Jett shot his album cover.
There'll be zero pushback on that.
Nope.
So.
Nope. But that's the black site that they took Jesse to record live from the black site. The warnings of activists, attorneys, and legal organizations in Chicago who remember this history all too well reasonably demand that the city of Chicago stop systematic violations of rights from occurring again. Yeah. That's like saying that that a Daley is never going to be elected mayor again. I mean, we can ask for it, but it's probably going to happen. Right? And
we'll probably put Lori Lightfoot's 4th clone in or something,
But as he says, if or when police trample on the First Amendment, there will be protesters and members of the press from all over the U.S. to challenge their actions. And if you know of or hear of any information related to journalist arrests or harassment during the DNC, email Kevin at newsletter@thedissenter.org right there. So definitely hook up our buddy Kevin Gostola at the Dissenter. He's another independent journalist that kind of goes at it alone. He does a podcast called Unauthorized Disclosure with Rania Kalik. And as I said, he is an Indie Media Award honoree. And I've been working with the Hey, how about that? I'm working with the Zago brothers. And check this out. This is Kevin's Zago head. First time anybody's seen it. Check that out. Kevin Gostola.
I don't know if that's what you should call it.
His Zago heads?
Yeah, I don't think that's the right choice.
Well, if you want to support independent media and support independent art, the money for all that we raise this month and for the next for the next bit is going to be going towards Zago Brothers to support his independent art for the 2024 Indie Media Awards. And we're having this made for all the honorees that we can possibly have it made for. I'm excited for that. Can't wait. And that's going to be coming in about 8-10 weeks or so, I'm guessing. So Oh, goodness. Adam Ayers saying that Lori Lightfoot is Beetlejuice's clone. That's pretty damn funny. All right.
Yep.
Jeff Thomas Black is also over on the
What clone?
Rockfin. But Beetlejuice.
Okay.
Right?
But you're not supposed to do that, dude.
Well, okay. It's showtime.
Now you've done it.
What? You know,
Now you've done
1968
it.
deep dish pizza, please. It's kind of funny, but my wife insisted that we take the kids to the Chicago style pizza tonight, and we ate at Chicago Uno Chicago Grill, and I did have a deep dish Chicago style pizza in honor of my friend Kit Cabello. It was not bad, but it wasn't
pretty
really
good.
It's not pizza. It's
Pretty good. It's
tomato,
pizza. It's pretty
it's
good.
tomato soup in a bread bowl with the cheese underneath. Anyway, yeah. Monarch and WEF and Bitcoins. That's right. Monarch's been killing it over there. I'm going to show his Substack for a minute tonight at the end. But I wanted to get to this letter quickly, and here we go. All right. It's featured in Consortium News, but it's not the only place that it's published. It's actually been published in a lot of places, but I was really kind of like, oh my goodness, this is great. But, look, a strongly worded letter is a strongly worded letter. But when you see some of the names that signed off on this letter at the end, you're just like, oh, all right, well, at least it's trying, they're trying to do something. So I started reading it to, I don't remember if it was Reef or Colin, but I'm like, look, I gotta read this for sure. This is, I've been struggling to find stories that aren't related to the horse race or Israel Palestine or press freedom or, and censorship, union stuff and labor stuff. Like, it all kind of seems to fit in one of those lanes, which is where we've been, but it's just, I don't know. It just feels like the same stuff repeating over and over and over again. So I read this, which it kind of is,
okay.
but that's history, I guess. History repeats itself. But the other day I see this published in Consortium News. 113 journalists, 7 press freedom groups, and 20 news outlets accused the U.S. Secretary of State of being complicit in one of the gravest affronts to press freedom today in Gaza. Again, not a surprise to anybody watching here. But it was delivered Thursday morning, and the only thing that I said was I wish that we had the opportunity to sign off on this too, because I think it was really solid. So, dear Secretary Blinken, since October 7th, 2023, Israel has killed more than 160 Palestinian journalists. This is the largest number of journalists killed in any war, and this isn't even a war, it's an assault. While Israel's indiscriminate bombing of the densely populated Gaza means no civilians are safe, Israel has also been repeatedly documented deliberately targeting journalists, and we've covered that several times here on How Do We Miss That? Israel's military actions are not possible without U.S. weapons, U.S. military aid, and U.S. diplomatic support. By providing the weapons being used to deliberately kill journalists, you are complicit in one of the gravest affronts to press freedom today. On World Press Freedom Day this year, you called on, quote, every nation to do more to protect journalists, unquote, and reiterated your, quote, unwavering support for free and independent media around the world, unquote. And that would be really nice if that were the truth. As journalists, publications, and press freedom groups in solidarity with the courageous Palestinian journalists of Gaza, we call on you to do more to protect journalists and show unwavering support for free and independent media by supporting an arms embargo against Israel. Israel has gone to great lengths to suppress media coverage of its war in Gaza, imposing military censorship on both its own journalists and international reporters operating in the country, and with Egypt's help, blocking all foreign journalists from Gaza. Israel shut down Al Jazeera, raided its office, seized its equipment, and blocked its broadcasts and website within Israel. The world relies only on the Palestinian journalists in Gaza to report the truth about the war and Israel's widespread violations of international law. Israel's deliberate targeting of these journalists seems intended to impose a near blackout on coverage of its assault on Gaza. Investigations by United Nations bodies, NGOs, and media organizations have all found instances of deliberate targeting of journalists. In a joint statement, 5 UN special rapporteurs declared, quote, "We have received disturbing reports that despite being clearly identifiable in jackets and helmets marked press or traveling in well-marked press vehicles, journalists have come under attack, which would seem to indicate that the killings, injury, and detention are a deliberate strategy by Israeli forces to obstruct the media and silence critical reporting." I don't think that's a surprise to many people listening to this. Israel has also killed journalists during the war outside of Gaza, such as that on October 13th, 2023, when an Israeli tank fired across the Lebanese border at clearly identified press, killing a Reuters reporter and injuring 6 other journalists. Under international law, the intentional targeting of journalists is a war crime. While all governments are bound by international law protecting reporters, U.S. domestic law also prohibits the State Department from providing assistance to units of foreign security forces credibly accused of gross violations of human rights. How about that? Israel's well-documented pattern of extrajudicial executions of journalists is a gross violation of human rights, let alone the documented rape and torture of their own Palestinian prisoners. But that's a whole other story. That's me adding that flair. Additionally, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects the American people's right to receive information and ideas. Israel's deliberate targeting of journalists follows a long-standing pattern by the Israeli government to suppress truthful reporting on its treatment of Palestinians and its war in Gaza, and by providing Israel with the weapons to use to kill such journalists, the State Department is abetting Israel's violent suppression of journalism. The U.S. is providing the weapons Israel continually uses to target Palestinian journalists in Gaza. This is a violation of international law and U.S. domestic law. We urge you to immediately cease the transfer of all weapons to Israel. Signed, 113 journalists, 20 news outlets, and 7 press freedom organizations, and their names are below. And I think none of these would really come as a surprise to many of us here. You see names like Abby Martin, Adam Johnson, Alex Press from Jacobin. All right, Ben Burgeon, a lot of Jacobin people, Branko Marticic. But you've got Kathy from Consortium News and Chip Gibbons, who's a great Assange defender, Chris Hedges. All right, I noticed Dave DeCamp from Anti-War and Dave Reed from Mondo Weiss. Dave Lindorf is on there. All right, Eleanor Goldfield, who we know, and you know, friend of the show. Again, a lot of the, there's Jeffrey St. Clair from Counterpunch, Joe Loria from Consortium News, another, again, honoree Consortium News. All right, so all in all, Gostola signed off on this. So not only did he, write the piece we wrote earlier, he also signed off on this letter. And there's more. Matt Kennard, we know and love Matt Kennard. And there was someone, Marjorie Cohn from Truth Out, as well as Sharon Zhang from Truth Out. She's on there. Michael Aria from Mondo Weiss and Philip Weiss. So many excellent journalists. Again, I only wish we had the opportunity to sign off on it. I think more people would have. I think Eleanor got the opportunity through Project Censored. And so these people that are connected with these organizations or know people from these organizations basically got the opportunity to sign off on it. I noticed Ryan Grimm got the opportunity in there. Not too much of a surprise. Somebody asked him and he said, yeah, sure, I'll put my name on that. The Real News Network too. Other news.
I mean, I think more importantly, it's going to be the journalists who can't be on there because they are no longer with us.
Yeah.
You know, the Abu Akleys, the Ismail al-Ghuls, the
Rafat
countless Palestinian journalists, Rafat al-Arir, yeah, absolutely. Where they targeted his whole family as well, which is awful, you know.
Kathy Lloyd says there was another a girl, like a woman was shot in the back today. Again, she's still alive right now. Oh, it's just, you know, we need to talk about the reporters, the brave reporters that are actually out there doing this and trying to inform the world. But, you know, a couple of organizations have said they're going to stop reporting because it's not really helping. And, you know, other than just showing people, but nothing's really changing, that they're just going to shut it down for their own safety. And, you know, that's super sad. And I totally understand.
Which is awful.
Yep.
You know, I would tell those people we still need you, those of us who actually need that information. But, you know, I understand why.
I understand too.
So,
talking about topics like this, as Reef likes to say on Wednesday night during INN News, is why this channel is suppressed like crazy when people try to search for it and they're not already subscribed on YouTube. Even if they search Indie News Network, they just don't see it. It's buried below a bunch of Indian news and other stuff. It's really weird. But there are ways to support the network here. You can subscribe on Cash App. You can subscribe on Patreon. Although Patreon's doing something weird right now. I don't know. I got to take that Patreon thing down. I'm a little concerned. Apple served them with a notice this week that they now have to start paying 30% for subscribers. And if you subscribe through the Apple app, then you're going to have to pay an extra 30%, or we're going to have to absorb that cost as the creator. And we're not getting paid that much to begin with. So it's actually kind of a big deal. And they're not really, you know, what is Apple doing other than providing an app store? It's kind of messed up. We've also got Rumble. Rockfin is still down for INN. But yes, Sean the Accord Lord, that's you, dude. You are like one of the best. We adore you. You know, you're a champ around here, as is Animairs and others. But you know, the support that you provide and you know, you actually like, you know, hook up our network regularly so that we can keep doing this, and we really appreciate it. And we wish you had 100 Sean Millers, seriously, or 1,000 would be even better. But even just 100 would make a massive difference, and we'd be able to do even more, I'm sure. So I wanted to, 169 targeted journalists. Again, thank you, Kathy Lloyd, for updating that number. We just said more than 160 in the article there. It seems that the Mooch recently appeared in Harris's crypto rally for crypto. Yeah, Golden Monarch. These Zionist elites both support Trump and Kamala. Yep, they're all trying to get their bread buttered. Yep, third-party candidates like Kennedy are also at Kamala's rally. No, come on. No, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be very surprised. But, yeah, I mean, you know what? I reached out to Rockfin this week and I asked them, hey, guys, what's going on with our channel? It's been like 2 months now. And their answer was, engineers know about it. And that was literally all I got. So at least thankfully we have this channel that we have here for it, which is rockfin.com/IND Left News. We're also live on Kick. We're live on Telegram, t.me/Indie News Network. Actually, you know, we're on t.me/IND Left News on mine. Most of you are watching on YouTube, which is great. We're trying to get people to go to other platforms. I actually thought about doing this QR code thing like we did last week for Boats Uncensored, which was super successful, by the way. Thank you if you were here and you watched Boats Uncensored last week. That was great. And I don't know if it's because it was 30 days since we got our copyright strikes from Al Jazeera, or if it was because of the QR codes, but we got like our ability to show and have links show in the descriptions taken
Apparently
away.
we can put in an ID, maybe that might help that.
Maybe,
So we'll try
which
that
I'm not
soon.
really crazy about giving them my ID, but I think I've already done that
Yeah.
once before for
I don't give them mine.
for monetization or something.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, again, my big thing, not only the Zionism, is the fees and the transactions and everything else, and the amount of power and the values behind it. And there's a ton of stuff. And if you read the Golden Monarch stuff, he'll get to everything and the players and the fakers and everything behind it. And it's going to be a long series, and I'm excited to see the rest of that. But I've only got really one more article tonight. But I did have more about journalists and about stuff with Palestine. Now, what happened here?
I don't know.
What did I do? I had a different post here, and now I don't know what happened to it, so I'm going to have to click here. There it is. It's a Mint Press article, or a Mint Press cartoon. Let me put this up here. So,
Probably from Latouf.
it is from
Imagine.
Latouf, as a matter of fact, or Latouf. But while Secretary of State
do you
Antony
pronounce that?
Blinken was celebrating the Geneva Conventions, the U.S. approved a $20 billion weapons deal with Israel. This came despite Israel having violated a UN Security Council resolution, while it stands plausibly accused of committing genocide, in addition to the fact that its prime minister and defense minister await ICC arrest warrants for war crimes, and if they set foot just about anywhere in Europe, they're going to be prosecuted. And they're going to be arrested, so they're not
Hopefully.
going there. Well, Germany said that they would follow it, and Norway and the Scandinavian countries, and even Britain said that they would have to too. Norway, yeah, shout out to the Snow Himbo for his people over there for that, right? So here's Uncle Sam, long live the Geneva Convention with $20 billion in arms to Israel, right? The hypocrisy. But then I had another thing from another Indie Media Award honoree, and that is Sam Husseini. And for this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. Aha, see that? It worked. And now we're going to turn this on for Reef so he can hear it. And Sam Husseini said that when he was on the subway, he saw this.
About that in 5 seconds. It's just horrible, these images that we see all day, every day. I don't know if you're on my same side of social media, but I can't live with myself knowing that I'm complicit, especially since our tax dollars are funding the direct genocide. So please, if you care about these babies, about humanity, please come out. The government has refused to do anything when we've spoken out. We've asked them politely, so we have to take action, and we have to increase our action. Thank you all for listening. Have a great night, and please show up for Palestine and Gaza and every other occupied territory. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
And that's Sam Husseini who said that for sure. I can tell from his voice. That's awesome stuff right there. How everyone can make even the slightest bit of difference. She's handing out flyers on the train, and look at that, 3.7 million views. She went viral. That's awesome. And like I said, we're going to start showing some of the award honorees. You guys saw this one because it was on the Zago brothers poster for the Truth Tellers, but he sent me this for Sam for the Indie Media Awards because he's an honoree from 2023 for top journalism because he's as badass as there are as they get. So I'm down with Sam. That's a good piece, good journalism just to film that and catch that on the subway. and to share that with everyone. All right. So Monarch, are you doing articles? Yes, he is. We're going to talk about that actually when we get to quick hits later. So, but I'm going to show you what they look like. Yep, you got it, my brother. Good to see you here. And I see Mastermind is here. Hello, civilians. Civilian Discourse is their show with Abby. And I messaged Abby because I noticed she hadn't been around, and she said that she's had some stuff going on, but she'll be back soon. And appreciated checking in on her. Snow Himbo is saying Valhalla. Is that because we mentioned Norway?
Your Norway comment.
No, he had to show up for Norway. Yes. And he ate way too much chicken. Shit should be illegal. No, actually, thank goodness it's not illegal because it's delicious. Anyway, final story of the evening. We'll get to go. Before we do that, here we go. And again, hook up your hosts, your streamers, your independent network that is totally user funded. We work on a value for value system here where we are looking for money, machines, and marketing. There you go. There's the 3 M's. You know, since Steve has the 3 T's, I had to come up with something different. So it's the 3 M's. Money, machines, and marketing.
Because I was tired of paying for weed.
Yeah, exactly. So anything you can do to hook us up. Cash App, $, Indie News Network. That's the fastest way to do it. My YouTube channel is actually monetized. You can actually drop a super chat over there, believe it or not. YouTube.com/IND Left News. You can do it over at Rockfin like Adam Ayers did last night during this stream with the Dissident that we did one-on-one. You can also do that over on a Rumble. You can drop us a Rumble rant. That's another way to do that. So there's a lot of ways to help out at INN. Substack subscription also works. INN newsletter for that. You can see that down in the scroll in the ticker down at the bottom. I don't have to tell you any of that stuff.
Substack newsletter near you.
She still hasn't started hers, but we're gonna get it this week. Maybe this is the week for Rachel, where she's gonna start hers. They have been touting a bunch of shit libs, and this week they gave Adam Kinzinger the ability to live stream there, which I was not too happy with. He went vertically. I noticed. Yeah, I guess they're letting government-sponsored Nazi lovers there have rights to that first before us, and then we'll get it. Kathy Lloyd, Julian does need a pardon right now. That would be great. Julian is a lifetime honoree. You're correct, and we did do something, and we got one of his. Zago put him in the middle of that poster, and I got his individual shot, so we can do something with that and for that too. Kathy, we actually have Buy Me a Coffee too as well. They use Stripe, and Stripe takes a fee on top of it. Ko-fi goes through PayPal, which actually charges no fee. So that QR code is another great way to hook us up. Is the INN, PayPal, and Ko-fi. So let's get to our final story of the evening, and then we can get to boats later on and take a little break first. But Council of State Media, I trust Ricky for news about what's going on across the pond because I really don't pay attention. And I know that there were some riots. There were some folks getting out of control, and what was happening.
They had soup for their families.
First of all, there's a ton of pro-Palestine protests. We know that. But then there were counter-protests, and there were pogroms and all kinds of crap happening. So, again, I rely on our friend Ricky to kind of give us, from the anti-imperialist perspective, what the hell's going on over there. So he wrote this 10 days ago. So this may not be the most current, but I thought this was a good perspective. He said that the genocide in Gaza and the riots in the UK have an obvious parallel, a hatred of Muslims and other races who are deemed inferior. And And that's not our belief. That is the people who are inflicting this, first of all. Both the riots and the genocide are driven by supremacist ideologies that are intrinsically linked and adhered to by our leaders. Right? Our politicians are just respectable versions of the drunken yobs who wear suits and ties. Their only disagreement with these yobs is that they make fascism look bad. So he's talking about one of these biggest yobs, UK's biggest yobs, is Tommy Robinson. All right? Someone who Americans might not be familiar with, but British people sadly are. So little Tommy, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, weird, is a guy who, yeah.
Okay.
All we're saying is give peace a chance. No, he's not related to John, but he has the same spelling in his last name. But he's a guy who gets angry when rapes and violence are allegedly carried out by Muslims and immigrants, but falls silent when they're carried out by anyone else, specifically the IDF. Like documented on camera. Yaxley Lennon has been a member of the British National Party and British Freedom Party, as well as a political advisor to the head of the UK Independence Party. Imagine being at the heart of an empire and demanding your independence. Okay. Yaxley Lennon stoked up riots with false claims on social media about armed Muslims while he was lying on a beach in Cyprus, safe from the violence he was unleashing. It sounds like, what's his name? Ian Miles Chong almost. This came after social media users falsely claimed a brutal murder of 3 girls in Southport was carried out by a Muslim. However, when it turned out the murderer was born to Christian parents, it was decided that this was the fault of Muslims anyway, and also the fault of anyone who doesn't hate Muslims. It's all your fault. We're smashing up the country, the fascists cried, right? So one interesting factoid about Yaxley Lennon, and this was something I did not know, is that his parents are Irish immigrants. So when is he going home? This is one example of an immigrant failing to respect our laws, yet Yaxley Lennon is so lacking in self-awareness. He is both a British nationalist, despite what the British did to the Irish, and a white supremacist. And he also just so happens to be a Zionist. What a surprise. Little Tommy likes to wear Mossad t-shirts and says he would fight for Israel, despite not being Israeli or even Jewish. But then again, Christian Zionists outnumber, Jewish Zionists worldwide. That's just U.S. Christian Zionists, let alone the ones anywhere else. He just has an affinity with members of racial groups who impose themselves on other racial groups. Well, yeah. As The Guardian and other outlets have reported, Yaxley Lennon is funded by pro-Israel lobbyists in the U.S., which surely counts as interference in our democracy, which is really funny because Israel is doing the same thing here, and now we're doing it apparently overseas. Philadelphia-based think tank Middle East Forum is one of his biggest sponsors and has admitted spending $60,000 on demonstrations during his trial for contempt of court. Yes, he was on trial. The MEF President Daniel Pipes described Yaxley Lennon as one of the people trying to sustain their civilization, trying to keep Europe Europe, trying to keep the West
That's
the
a
West.
dog whistle.
He added
another dog whistle.
Right. Overall, I think that their effort is sound and needed. Imagine the lack of self-awareness it takes for a Zionist to be anti-immigration. Well, there's a lot of them here. Yaxley Lennon is reportedly also funded by pro-Israel billionaire Robert Shillman, who sits on the board of Friends of Israel Defense Forces. I think you've covered Friends of the Israel Defense Forces before, as well as the Gatestone Institute and the David Horowitz Freedom Center.
Not to be confused with Friends of Labor, Friends of Israel, Friends of Labor Israel, or whatever they call that.
Right, or the one that's the Friends of Israel that the one that's involved with Diddy also. That was a different Friends of Israel, right? That you covered that one too.
Yeah.
But
That was Diddy's friends.
Yeah, it remains to be seen why they think it's important to donate to a British fascist whose only claim to fame is being the best at hating Muslims. Sounds like our Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Well,
sounds like a couple of politicians.
Yep. What's his name? Louis Gohmert too. Sure. But
Gomer Pyle.
While you might be forgiven for thinking this is all an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, isn't everything these days? The above has been covered by the Times of London, the Times of Israel, sorry, of all places. As much as Zionism is an awful ideology, not all Zionists are stupid enough to think that an association with Stephen Yaxley Lenin is good optics. Some Zionists pretend to be moderates. Not many. Right? It's not just pro-Israel lobbyists who have an affinity with Stephen Yaxley Lenin. Many of our so-called journalists do too. Although most would not admit to it, they certainly share his prejudices. There are some individuals who are not afraid of being linked to the UK's foremost knuckle-dragger. He's been boosted by Elon Musk on Twitter. He's been supported by Trump's British ambassador and even hosted by Tucker Carlson on his show. He also was hosted by Viva Fry recently, I saw. And I went in there and dropped this article and kept calling him Stephen Yaxley Lenin in the chat, dead naming him because he calls himself Tommy Robinson. Right?
Did Tara Bull put him in that list of that block list she put out? No?
He might have. He might have. She might have.
He'd fit.
Yep. Our media pretends to reject the hatred pushed by the likes of Yaxley Lenin while pushing the exact same hatred itself, but doing so with fancy words and posh voices so the concerns sound reasonable. You only have to look at the glee with which Ed Balls and Kate Garraway questioned the Muslim MP Zahra Sultana over the riots sweeping the UK. They mocked her for wanting the riots to be referred to as racist and Islamophobic rather than anti-immigration protests. Racist and Islamophobic riots would be an appropriate description, but the GMB hosts would rather disregard Islamophobia even when Muslims are being violently attacked. Many in the media think that the real problem is not the racists and Islamophobes who riot, it's the Muslims and foreigners who make them do it. Racists and Islamophobes have...
Look what you made Miss do!
Right? They're like literally the unreal. Racists and Islamophobes have genuine concerns, you see, and those concerns include seeing people in their country with a darker pigment of the wrong religion. They sound like Azov Nazis from Ukraine, kind of. Right?
There's probably a few of those in there, too.
I'm sure.
Seeing as how, but...
Yeah. But
not to mention UK mercenaries who just came back from Israel and Ukraine.
I was going to say,
sure
and
they're
Ukraine.
part of that.
Yep. Well, they're the ones that sent Boris Johnson over to make sure there was no peace deal originally. But one painful fact. One painful fact of life for respectable fascists is that they can't admit to their fascism and must distance themselves from people they privately agree with. I remember they did this with Nigel Farage too, initially, who by the way has been rehabilitated somehow. But this is part of the reason they love Zionism.
Bush and all the others.
Yep. While you can speculate that they're all funded by pro-Israel lobbyists or blackmailed by Mossad, many just love the opportunity to proudly boast of a supremacist ideology. This is presumably why Keir Starmer says he is Zionist without qualification, even when Zionists are committing genocide. Well,
yeah,
there's that going around too. Himbo did a whole segment about a mayor up in Canada that was calling for them to do it even harder. He sounds like Trump almost. The thing that people need to understand is that we're not going to end the crisis in the Middle East until we defeat the ideology called Zionism. But unlike other supremacist ideologies, we're not allowed to criticize this one. The people who don't want you to talk about Zionism are the people who don't want you to talk about Islamophobia, because the moment you do, people will connect the dots. A fresh wave of Islamophobia sweeping across the UK is exactly what the warmongers need. If they can whip up hatred of Muslims while preventing people from mentioning Islamophobia, they can weaken pro-Palestinian sentiment and avoid accountability for their war crimes. You know, I just want to mention that there are also 10% of Palestinian people that are not Muslim or that don't practice Islam, but there are Christians there and there were Jews there too, until they pulled them all out. This is why it's so ridiculous when Elon Musk, who clearly knows nothing about the UK, claims there is a two-tier system in which the so-called far left are treated much more leniently than the far right. You know, I admit that I clearly know nothing about the UK.
The narrative that has been happening.
Right? But they're trying to mirror what's happening here too, where there really is no far left, first of all, politically. When people protest against genocide, their critics demand the strictest possible sentences, but when fascists riot, members of Patriotic Party Reform UK are more likely to say they should be given lenient sentences. Islamophobic rioters are driven by genuine concerns, you see. Now, he says in the UK you can protest against a war and the police will batter you and shut down your protest, and when you've done nothing wrong. In the UK, you can be prosecuted for toppling a slaver statue or jailed for having a banner from a bridge calling for an end to the climate crisis. Contrast this with the rioters.
Or have a bad tweet.
Right? Well, he says, contrast this with the rioters who are setting fire to the hotels in the hope of burning asylum seekers alive. It's a bit fucking different.
Which is fucking,
isn't it?
Ridiculous.
Right?
Jesus Christ.
Unreal. Our politicians echo the sentiments of the rioters with their scapegoating of foreigners and Muslims. We see the Prime Minister and members of his cabinet using anti-immigrant rhetoric to deflect from the fact that they have nothing to offer. And that's like the equivalent of our Democrats, which is right on par, but they're not scapegoating and fear-mongering Muslims and foreigners. They're still not there yet, thankfully. But we see record prison sentences for peaceful protesters and lenient sentences for fascist rioters. We're sort of seeing that, although January 6th rioters and attendees certainly would fall in the second category, and they're not getting lenient sentences whatsoever, as well as journalists that are trying to document this.
Yep.
The Prime Minister claimed that violence wasn't as bad last night due to the police, when it was actually because anti-fascists and trade unionists came out in huge numbers to fend the rioters off. The Prime Minister instructed his MPs and councillors not to stand with anti-fascist counter-protesters because this would upset his fascist base. Oh, come on.
Right.
It would also make their whole optics look bad. One moderate politician called Sarah Sackman used the riots as an opportunity to tell us that anti-fascists are just as bad as fascists. And she even suggested that the anti-fascists are anti-Semitic. Of course, antiseptic. I can only assume she meant anti-Zionist, given she showed no evidence. The only evidence provided by anyone was an online image attacking Zionists that had nothing to do with the counter-protesters, which they do often. The implication of Sackman's words was only people who are halfway between fascism and anti-fascism are acceptable. Well, that's liberals, so scratch a liberal and a fascist, please. Imagine boasting about being half fascist at a time when fascists are tearing up the country and making non-white people terrified to leave their homes. The so-called moderates turn any conversation about fascism into criticism of anti-fascism and what they claim to be anti-Semitism, even though, of course, we know that Palestinian people are the true Semites. It's a subconscious admission that they see anti-fascism and anti-Semitism as being one and the same, It's incredible. It's a roundabout way for them to defend fascism by defending Zionism. It's only acceptable offshoot, and that's not really a surprise. It's not really acceptable, but that is to them. The politicians who tell us that they don't agree with the rioters but think they have legitimate concerns are the same politicians who say they don't agree with Israel's genocide, but then supplied weapons for 10 months anyway. It all stems from the
billions.
Yep, it all stems from the supremacist mindset. I don't know if the UK politicians gave them billions worth, but they certainly sent tons of flights and tons of weaponry also over there. And then you add up what they did.
Elbit has certainly made plenty of products for them. So,
damn, you're really delayed. We'll have to fix that for boats. Right. So the problem here is that the UK is not. The problem with the UK is not foreigners nor the people who treat foreigners like human beings. It's the supremacists whose ideology has built empires, plundered the world, and treated white members of the working class like dirt while treating those of a different color even worse. They trick you into punching down, and when you do, you become your own worst enemy. That sounds familiar. God, that's such a great quote. We will not have a better country or a better world until we defeat supremacism in all forms and see each other as human beings. Again, big fan of Ricky and Council of State Media. This one got a decent amount of likes, 91 comments on there. All these links are going to be in the description afterwards, but you'll have to go to Substack, which is at indiemediatoday.com. You can hit his Rachel Maddow soundbite over there. Ah, there you go. Oh man, Barker's here. We've got the whole Canadian contingent in the house. Anna Mayer saying, I'm glad Cop Mala has no policies. Full mask off. Guess it's honest at minimum. But except that her policies are going to be whatever the bankers want them to be. And I guess that's no policy, but she does have policies. It's just, they're awful. Zionism is anti-Semitism. Fred Edward is saying yes, and that's true. Judaism is not Zionism. Zionism is antiseptic. Yes, it is. All right, good to see you, and thank you for all your support, Fred. Randy, good to see you. Those meat and cheese pies can't be called pizza. I totally agree with you. It was yummy and delicious, and they had sauce. It had sausage in it. Sausage. All right. Kathy Lloyd. Now you're back on Twitter as Lloyd Kathy. We caught that. Good to see you back on there. All right. So coming soon to an echo chamber near you. No, I don't think that necessarily it's an echo chamber. You build your own echo chamber if you want. Valuetainment. Oh, thank you, Himbo, for reminding me. If you do want to tip your live streamers, we work on a value for value system here. So if you feel like you got value out of these stories that we're bringing here, and these were interesting, different from something like you would be hearing on other channels, hopefully, and that they support independent, non-corporate entities, well, we're your people right here. And these people are awesome, and they've already done so, and I really appreciate that. Right up through Natalie Williams. I do want to give a special shout out to Shanda, who's not doing very well right now. She's in the ICU. I don't know if everybody's seen. Go check out her Trailer Park Pundit Twitter. She put up a video today about that. I don't want to tell you what was going on, but you can tell there, and just wanted to wish her the best. And Oz has also not been doing well. He finally caught the COVID, and he's on the road to recovery. So we wish him well and hope he's doing better too. I did have a couple things I wanted to get to at quick hits for around the world. And wait, I don't want that to play. No, we didn't want that to play. All right, let's go quick hits.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? I love it when you do the Seinfeld one. That's pretty funny. But, we talked earlier about Golden Monarch. He started a Substack, and I want to talk a little bit about that for a second. Really proud of him for doing it, and it took a ton of kind of browbeating and a while for Bad Cookies, who should be here in chat. I don't know where Bad Cookies is. Shout out to our friend Bad Cookies. And I were like, look, man, you have been in this Hardlands Discord ranting and raving about Bitcoin and about crypto, and you really understand how it is being used to exploit, people who are looking to potentially invest, and honest people that have not a lot of money, but that the entire system has been captured by central bankers and by Zionists, and that they've bought a ton of different positive press, and that it's linked to a ton of nefarious shit, including hucksters that are looking to pump this thing up because they invested in it early on, and they need for this thing to continue to grow because they just get wealthier and wealthier as it does. So they have all the incentive in the world to push it. And so he's written a couple of articles already about how Bitcoin has become Zionist Bitcoin, and that was his first article the other day. And then just last night, he published another one about how even the Democrats have embraced Zionist Bitcoin. And he lays out several examples in here. I was actually going to potentially bring this tonight, but I encourage everyone to go read it. It's at goldenmonarchnews.substack.com. Again, I will put this in the description later on. Golden Monarch, or someone who's a mod, if you want, can drop a link in the chat to it. But he cites 3 different examples using Ro Khanna, who's a Bitcoin Zionist, and how Crypto for Harris is welcoming more, and how Chuck Schumer and even Elizabeth Warren was on board with this stuff. And it's, look, that links to Sam Bankman-Fried and the FTX crash, and how they used crypto to kind of launder money into the 2022 election cycle early on. So again, shout out to this guy for actually sacking up and actually starting a publication to write his own stuff. If, any help that I can give, if you want to turn this into a podcast, do audio stuff and have some kind of AI do an audio read and attach that to it and figure out how to turn that into whatever we want to do, man. This is your oyster, and I'm just proud of you for doing it, and grateful that you finally listened to me after too much time. All right. The other article I did want to showcase really quick, but not read through, was, and this was like the biggest no shit article, and this is why I didn't want to read through the whole thing, but they bring a lot of receipts. This was a Popular Resistance or Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting article. FAIR is the organization. Students left out of discussions about the Gaza protests. So what they did was they went back and they analyzed TV and newspaper coverage between April 21st and May 12th to look at who did these morning shows have on, what was their breakdown of guests, and there was basically almost no student representation whatsoever on the Sunday shows, as you can see there. Mostly government and politicians, few journalists, couple of academics, mostly to defend Israel, actually, and defend from the protest side and shit on the protesters. Couple of people that were there they said they only mentioned the word divestment once. This is a really good article. I shared this today to Twitter, and I'll put it in the description. But I thought this was also a really good article, but I didn't think it was worth covering here because it doesn't really tell us anything that we didn't know. It just really gives data to something that we already suspected and already kind of knew. So I want to shout it out. Bear did a good job. Popular Resistance, another Indie Media Award honoree. So wherever I can give them a leg up and a shout out, we do that too. Last night was really cool. For the first time ever, the dissident made his voice heard, not just in writing, but also in voice. And he reached out to me. He's a co-founder originally of INN. He was with the original 16 that started with us. And he was writing to our Substack early on, even before I was, for INN newsletter. And he made one go viral about Hassan Piker shitting on activists during the General Strike Summit for RBN 3 years ago. Really appreciated that. But we've always kind of stayed in touch. He was writing a lot through when Russia invaded and through the SMO started in Ukraine. And about 6 months in, he just kind of lost his taste for it and disappeared for about 2 years until Julian Assange was freed. And then he started writing again. I stayed in touch with him the whole time. Hey, if you want to come back anytime. I was always encouraging and supportive. And I love the way the guy wrote. You know, we were friends in Discord and everything. And so he reached out to me recently. He was like, let's do a podcast. Like, hell yeah, let's do a podcast. So we recorded something last night. It was a little over an hour long. So you can check that out over at INN Newsletter. It's at the top of the at the newsletter right now, or actually it's right there. Because we've been posting a daily update about what streams and premieres. So the one for today. Who are these people?
Who are these people?
Yep. And then just today, that podcast is in there, as well as the clip premiere that went out at 11 o'clock, tonight's stream, and then a link to the Rumble version of Boats. They could embed the YouTube version, but we pull it down right afterwards. So I'm linking to the Rumble version. So right from our newsletter daily now, you'll be able to get a link to any live streams that we're going to be doing for that night, assuming that we don't shift on the fly. Of course, it's all subject to change. The only other thing I wanted to mention was that I was live on Hardlens this week and co-hosted on Wednesday. That was a lot of fun. I started out with Kit hosting the show, and we went through my article about America the Brainwashed, which we weren't going to read here either. And then Kit had to leave halfway through, and Daniel stepped in the chair. That's Daniel right there. That's his Zago cartoon art. And Daniel stepped in the chair, and he was we did the other half of the show, and it was really cool. I don't know if we really even got to the articles or like the stories that, you know, about Ilhan Omar winning. We kind of glanced over it. We didn't even talk about Don Samuels or how he was funded by AIPAC and how much they threw at him and whatever. We just want to talk about like how the media is influencing and trying to brainwash the country with joy and with narratives and with Trump. And, you know, and this is just a 2-horse race. They don't want you to think about any other candidates or how they're throwing any other candidates off the ballots. They don't want you to think about much of anything. All right. Oh, Anna, thank you so much. I really appreciate. Yeah, that you subbed to Dissident. He's cool. Did we figure out what happened to Robbie Yeager? So about a month ago when Biden dropped out, Robbie popped up and tweeted twice. And he's like, so did I miss anything? And then he went back into his hole, and we have not heard from him ever since. He's doing his thing in North Carolina, and you know, we love him for it. There's Golden Monarch's Substack, goldenmonarchnews.substack.com. So, yep, shout out to Bad Cookies too. Bad Cookies is on the Tin Rabbit podcast, which is on Wednesdays before INN News starts. So go check that out. But yeah, so we got through all the plugs, we got through all the stories, and it's only 11:15. I told you it was going to be a short one tonight. So we're going to have some time, and we'll be back still at midnight to do Boats. And oh, you were talking about the one with it was Better Off script with Daniel. I totally agree. I thought that was really good. I really enjoyed sitting down with Daniel. It was a different kind of conversation, and I really liked his perspective. Yeah, they talked about this with some Palestinian protesters on RBN. Yep. Hardlensmedia99.com, right? 99 Perspectives. That's right. That's their deal. All right. So, I've got a calendar. That's here. That's what's going on this week. So Himbo just posted that his Maple Files this week will be about the World Economic Forum's influence on Canada. So that's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss that. Here on Indie News Network, of course. Boats will be coming up next. Last night we had pro wrestling talk, and I filled in for, last night we didn't have a gaming stream with Himbo. It was just a one-on-one. I don't know what we're going to do next week. I'm going to talk to Himbo about that. Maybe we'll do a one-on-one. Who knows? I don't even know if my wife's going to be back. She's going away with a couple of the kids for the week. So we'll see how that works out. Tuesday night's American Tradition. And we were going to do that this week. Jesse's doing a few of my favorite sings. He said, I want to make the cover like Julie Andrews from Sound of Music and put my head crudely on there. I think I pulled it off. And so we're going to do that. Yeah. Oh, push your merch. I did actually on the INN link tree. Now they actually have the ability to add merch directly on there. So I did. Wednesday night at 9, we're going to have INN News with Reef and Colin, I believe, best of my knowledge.
Yep.
Thursday night, we'll have our regular Politically Homeless show with Crab and Himbo. Again, subject to change. My guess is they'll be talking about the shit show that is the DNC. Angel of the Afternoon, Friday night. The last couple weeks he's had Alex Knight on. If you haven't caught that, definitely catch up with that. Alex, good friend too. Friend of the network, friend of the show. And then Clip Show Friday nights. We had a blast on Friday night. We did potluck, and I just picked a bunch of random tunes and spoken word. And of course, seeking what's the End of the World song, the Chris Cornell song got copyright, whatever, but that's all right. We don't care about that stuff. YouTube hates us anyway. But yeah, 7 nights a week of live content over at INN. Different hosts, different shows, different perspective, all independent. You wanted to mention INN Shop, Indie News, Indie News .shop, Animaires. Check out your American Tradition t-shirt. First of all, your INN t-shirt. I don't know why that $33 t-shirt's there. But if you go a couple pages in, you got your American Tradition tee. I actually got this one. It's awesome. It's comfortable as hell. It's weird to wear a shirt with another man's face on it, but it is Jesse, so I'm cool. You've got INN logos here. New election, same bullshit.
Who are these people?
Oh, we know what that sound is. That sound is a Ko-fi alert. Very nice. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. I don't know why the stream alert, it kind of came through, I see. This is an oldie that Reef set up that has the labels are bad, stay independent, and the piece of wood on there. And then we've got bitch pint glasses and bubbles make boing boing, which I reminded Misty of, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe. By the way, if you want your We're Fucked sweatshirt, all right, you can have one of those. All right. Where's that? I have that usually pretty closely. I don't know what's going on here. Where'd it go?
He is a sick puppy.
No, not that one. That's not Misty. What? Where did Misty go? Wait. It's not. It didn't make it over here? Come on. Oh, here.
We're fucked.
There it is. Okay, I found it. So you even made it a poster. So if you want to get a poster for your wall, you get a poster. I think there's even a shower curtain, so you can have Misty in your bathtub. Kind of creepy. All right.
I don't think I did that, but
Colin designed this one. When people are occupied, resistance is justified. That's a sticker for $6.99. You can put that on your laptop. Pretty badass sticker. I like that one. And there are American Tradition tank tops. Boats smashing into other boats is a tank top. I turned that into, and a die cut sticker. I got an INN die cut sticker now on my laptop. We got one for for Pro Wrestling Talk, and with Angel's big mug on there. So if you want to get any of these, you can go to indienews.shop and you can check out all the merch. And if you want anything else, we can add that too. And who was it that hooked us up? The Accord Lord, of course. It is Sean hooking us up. Thank you. You got to support the independent media and support independent art. He's got us up to 9% already of our $2,000 goal to help out Zago Brothers, and we're gonna get the boats. I promise we're gonna get the boats, Egregores. I promise, bro. So Reef will drop that in the chats. Did I win the bet? I don't know. What's the bet? I don't know.
Don't know.
Boob tube.
How long it would be, I think.
I don't know. Yeah, screw boob tube. I don't know. Yep, we're gonna do boats, and we're gonna do boats on Rockfin Rumble and YouTube as well. So we'll be back in about a half hour or so, and I'll start the music a few minutes before that. But until then, support independent media because we do need it more than ever. I keep saying it every week, and I really appreciate the people that do. And if you can't, actually donate, share, and get more people listening to this because we're all put in a bubble and it's so hard to break out of. So anybody you can tell about it, your neighbor, the person at the coffee shop, anyone, man, support independent media and help us grow. Thanks, everyone. Night.
Keep listening to what Little Boats have to tell you. Good night, fam. See you in a bit.
Ciao, baby. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!